What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. This is going to be my first impression of the Childhood Encounter banner, which is from Sacred Stones, and at the end I'll go over my overall opinion of the banner and if you should be pulling on this banner or not. So the first unit that we have is going to be Young Tana. So she is a Lance Flyer, and even though that's a very saturated class type, she's going to be extremely amazing, as you could see by this screen alone, because her mobility is absolutely amazing. It's kind of similar to Halloween Noe, but unlike Halloween Noe, she's actually a modern unit, so she has much better stats. We do see her stats just before she attacks, so this is her stat spread. Really good offensively, and also not that bad defensively either, especially considering the fact that she can get extra defense and resistance from her weapon and slot A skill. She's actually pretty deceptively tanky, and she also has attack speed drain. So Lance of Frelia gives her -1 special cooldown, which is a really good news for any kind of Lance Flyer, because it means that they can be a really good Gale Force unit with that 4-turn Gale Force, and she can move to a space within 2 spaces of an ally within 2 spaces. So pretty similar to Halloween Noe, except for the fact that Tana here is not a ranged unit. So still, like, this kind of movement shenanigans is always going to be really unique, and it is going to be aging to be better than just raw stats and raw effects in my opinion, because the utility is always going to be there. And at start of combat, if unit is above 25% HP, then she gets +6 attack and speed during the combat, and if she initiates combat, then she gets +10 defense and resistance. So she's definitely a really player face focused unit, and the fact that she can get +10 defense along with the impact skill means that she effectively has over 50 defense with the range skill included. So that makes her incredibly tanky, and because she's already so fast, there's really not many things that can double her back when she's going to be initiating on them. So very good unit in the player phase, has movement shenanigans, has the attack and speed. She also has the Canto in slot B, and she also has the overall bulk to survive a lot of the retaliations. So the new line of skills that we're going to be getting is going to be the Trace skills. So Tana here has got speed, defense, near trace. So it enables Canto with remaining +1 movement. And the base effect of the skill is going to be inflicting -3 speed and defense on the foe during the combat. And it functionally makes it so that these are kind of like lull skill, but without the neutralization. So the debuffs are going to be there in that sense, but you get Canto instead. And the near trace Canto basically gives you remaining movement +1. So this is basically a nerfed down version of the Canto that we have seen on Sumiya and Regan. So it is not going to be as good because you're not going to be able to hit and run that effectively, but still having that Canto is still really good. It just means that you need to plan with your unit more, like reposition them, smite them, just save their movement basically. So this kind of Canto, just like the original Canto, after an attack, assist skill, or structured destruction, they can move any kind of spaces which are left within their movement, +1 of course. And if they're using any kind of teleporting skills or warping skills like Tana does here, then their remaining movement is automatically set at 0. So you cannot really teleport and expect to get the extra movement left. You're just going to be having 1 movement left, as you'll see later on with Tana herself. So here she basically teleported with her weapon, and because she teleported, her remaining movement was set to 0, which means that only 1 movement was left, because keep in mind that near trace does give Canto remaining movement +1. So whenever you warp with Tana, you're only going to be able to Canto for 1 movement. Still, it is going to be pretty good for retreating and stuff like that. So that is the things which you have to keep in mind while using these near trace skills. Of course, these are going to be only available for Flyers and Cavalry units, because they are the ones that can use Canto skills in the mainline games as well. So I don't really think this is going to be available to Infantry or the Armor units, of course, because they do not have any kind of mounts. And of course, we know that when you use Canto and Gale Force is going to be triggering before, and then you're going to be getting the Canto skill. So near trace is going to be a pretty nice thing on a lot of Gale Force units basically for hit and run, but it's not really as good as the Canto of Regan or Sumiya really. But still, it's really nice for movement shenanigans, and like offensive Flyers don't really have too many slot B options. They have like Dive Bomb, Desperation, and that's pretty much it. If you want to run snack skills, that's fine, but snack skills aren't really all that good. This, on the other hand, is a very solid option, because Tana is already so bulky in the player phase with the +20 defense that she pretty much gets. she doesn't really have to run Dive Bomb or like Desperation because she's not going to be that frail in her player phase. So this kind of skill is really, really good on these kinds of like player phase units for the movement shenanigans with the Canto. And the next unit that we have is Young Eirika. So she is a cavalry staff unit, does not have Latona of course, but maybe Legendary Eirika might happen at some point because we did get Legendary Lilina. So here are her stats. So she appears to be really offensive. 38 base speed is extremely good for a cavalry healer. She does have like alright resistance, but she's extremely frail with her low HP and her low defense. So she also has the Canto basically, but this is the Far Trace. So we'll go over that. First of all, she's got the preferred weapon of Staff of Roston, and this basically has Wrathful Staff built into it. And at start of turn, she inflicts -6 resistance and flash status on the closest foes within 5 spaces of her throughout their next action. And if she initiates combat, then she gets +6 attack and speed during the combat. So just keep in mind that this is basically a flash effect where you do not even have to attack because this starts at your turn. So you do not have to attack to get the flash effect, unlike Kemph or Rajat. So this weapon is extremely powerful, and this is definitely going to be seen a lot on Aether Raid's defense because you pair this up with a far save armor unit to prevent sniping, and you force your opponent to tank your team. And when they try to tank your team, obviously she can just inflict the flash status, and if you do not have null counter disrupt, then well, good luck, you're gonna get barraged by a lot of attacks. So this is gonna be an extremely strong weapon because it gives you the flash status and the resistance debuff without even doing anything. That's just amazing. And if you do attack, then you get +6 attack and speed, and that is obviously gonna be really amazing with attack speed push for. She's gonna be hitting extremely hard, extremely hard. She also comes with Rescue Plus, which is really good for any kind of healer, and then she's got Speed Resistance Far Trace. So this is gonna be a Canto for ranged cavalry units as well, and this gives you speed and resistance -3 debuff on the foe. And unlike the Near Trace skill, this doesn't really give you remaining movement +1. Instead, it's like the flat remaining movement. Here, as you can see on the Near Trace, it says remaining +1, but on the Far Trace here, it is just the remaining movement basically, which is not that bad because these are ranged cavalry units and they can attack at range, so they don't have to use that much of their movement to hit the enemy. And this makes it a really strong option honestly on many of these ranged units. She doesn't really need to run Dazzling Staff because she pretty much gets the flash effect from her weapon essentially, but it is not going to be like affecting many foes at the same time if they're not at the same distance. These Canto skills are definitely pretty interesting, especially the Far Trace one. I think that's much better than the Near Trace one. Near Trace is still like pretty good option on many units, but Far Trace is by far the more like amazing option on these kinds of ranged cavalry units because they are already so strong with their extra movement. So extremely good unit, definitely one of the best staff units in the entire game, and the animation is just top tier. Look at that animation, it's so amazing. So here she's gonna get the Canto, and she moved 1 space, so the remaining movement that she has is 2. So she can basically Canto out of the way, and this is really good with Rescue because with Rescue she can like essentially move back 3 spaces, which is absolutely amazing because Rescue is like a drawback. So very good skill that she has got along with the Canto. Big fan of Eirika here. This ult is really good. Makes up for her weapon refine, which was definitely a bit lackluster. And then we have got Young Leon. So he is a blue infantry mage. We already have red Leon, we already have green Leon. So now we are completing the weapons triangle for Leon, and it's baby Leon. He's just so small, he just looks really adorable. So he has got Tome of Grado, and this gives you +3 attack. And if foe initiates combat, which means that it's always going to be active in the enemy phase, or if the foe is at full HP, then it inflicts -6 attack and resistance on the foe, and it neutralizes any kind of penalties to his attack and resistance. So debuff neutralization is extremely powerful, and attack and resistance are definitely going to be 2 of his main stats. And if the foe is colorless and has got a ranged weapon like bow, dagger, magic, or staff, then he gets the weapons triangle advantage. So basically a Raven Tome against colorless ranged units, not against the melee colorless units, not the Mufasas and Valurias of the world, but only the ranged colorless units. So this kind of thing is really good because range units are extremely annoying, and he has got a preferred Raven Tome that gives you -6 attack and resistance debuff, and also has penalty neutralization on his attack and resistance. So really good weapon defensively, honestly, for this kind of tank. And he has got not much on his base kit because he's a demote, which means that it's relatively easy to plus and merge compared to the other 5-star logged units, and you're on average going to be requiring like 400 to 500 orbs, anywhere around that, depending on your luck. So he can be a pretty solid plus and option for many of his fans, and I think this is going to be his stat spread. His stats are not shown here, but I've basically calculated using this bow flyer that we see here, and this bow flyer is the same one which Tana tagged and killed here. So I did calculate these stats, and I think he's going to be pretty good for a 4-star demote. He's going to be having a pretty nice base attack, which is really good for a Raven Tome user, and he's going to be having better bulk. He might have like lower defense, honestly, or even higher defense, matching like 35-36 defense. It really depends on how much they want to lower his speed, but basically the outline of Lyon is going to be something similar to this: high resistance, high attack, extremely low speed. So you have to run quick riposte or something like that for him to double. He also has attack rest solo. I hope this is going to be a 4-star skill. That's going to be pretty amazing. And here he's going to trigger his iceberg, so that's why I did calculate his resistance. It's definitely going to be around that. And then we have got duo Young Eirika and Ephraim. So Ephraim is the first unit who was not only a lead unit with duo Ephraim, but he's also a cheerleader here with Eirika. So that is some that is something, man. Ephraim appearing twice in a duo unit. That's the first time. So their preferred weapon gives them -1 special cooldown, and if they initiate combat or if they're within 2 spaces of an ally, they get +5 to all of their stats. So extremely easy condition to trigger. And if they have any kind of visible buff on them, or any kind of bonus, or any kind of penalty on them, then they're gonna be able to get a mini ether essentially, because they deal damage 20% of foes defense, and they also heal up the damage based on 20% of foes defense. So that's why I say it's like a mini ether essentially, and this can allow them to definitely hit harder and also have a much better self-sufficiency. So this can make it so that they are relatively healthy most of the time, and their base kit is also pretty good. Luna is going to be becoming a 2-turn special, and distant foil, distant counter is much better honestly on a unit like this, but distant foil it is. Null follow-up and joint drive speed. So really amazing fodder if you do want to fodder them, but as a unit themselves, they're going to be a pretty good unit. They're of course a sword infantry unit, but they're pretty balanced. Like if you look at their stat spread, they do have extremely good speed, and they also have quite workable bulk. Not to mention that they have their duo skill here, which you'll see in a moment. So their duo skill is basically going to be giving the dodge effect, and this is a reusable duo skill, the speed-based damage reduction. So this frees up their slot B, and that's why they've got null follow-up. So they can have null follow-up, the damage reduction at the same time, which is really good. And this duo skill would be a nightmare to face on your Ether Raid's defense, but thankfully duo hindrance is really good, so you wouldn't have to worry about that as long as you run a duo or harmonic unit on your team. And everyone did get duo Lin for free, so this unit is basically going to be much better in players' hands in my opinion. And of course, because they are a duo unit, they are going to be having extremely high scoring in arena, so expect to see them a lot. So this kind of Aeon effect, speed-based damage reduction skill is extremely insane, because you can give this skill to units who wouldn't have this kind of damage reduction, as you'll see here. So they use their duo skill, and even Tana and Dragon, who are not supposed to have these speed-based damage reduction skills, can get it. So it's really good in the player's hands honestly, and it frees up their own slot B skill. So pretty good unit, and they also have self-sufficiency. It's hard to, stand out with sword infantry units, but like these units are definitely going to be standing out because of their preferred weapon and the duo skill, which is really good. And finally, we do have Young Ines, as we can see him in the power log. We're going to be seeing his weapon and like his skills in a few hours, I believe. But at the very least, I think that his weapon is going to be giving him -1 special cooldown, because he ends up having a 1 cooldown special in this trailer, and he's a colorless infantry bow. Infantry bow, okay, yeah. So yeah, Young Ines is definitely going to be our free unit from Tempest Trial. Pretty excited about him because Young Minerva did turn out to be a pretty good unit. So overall, this banner is going to be a pretty nice thing for a lot of Sacred Stone fans. And if you're a big fan of these units, then, you know, of course you can try to pull. But keep in mind that this banner doesn't have a spark system. So do not go into it expecting to pull a 5-star unit guaranteed, unlike the new Heroes banner. And that's why I wouldn't really recommend a lot of these seasonal banners to many players, because it's a gamble, because you don't have a guaranteed free summon with the spark system. And the most unique unit out of this entire banner, in my opinion, is going to be Lara Shell, because like Cav healers are rare, Cav healers with preferred weapon are even more rare, and the fact that she can inflict flash without even attacking is really good. And even outside of the utility, she herself is an extremely powerful unit because she gets +6 attack and speed from the weapon, and then she's got attack speed push 4. So in my opinion, Lara Shell is going to be like the most unique unit out of this. Tana is also pretty good, you know, as a Gale Force unit with the mobility shenanigans, and Lyon is going to be a demote unit, but we do have a couple of blue infantry mages as it is, but the Raven Tome that he has got going with the debuff neutralization is definitely pretty amazing. And Duo Eirika, you know, is going to be a good unit, but the competition is extremely stacked for sword infantries, even when we see units like her where they've got such a good weapon and a duo skill. The duo skill is definitely going to be the selling point of Duo Eirika because you can run null follow up. So for the most players, this is going to be like a passable banner despite its good effects and weapons, because this is a seasonal banner with no spark, and like you have to spend hundreds of orbs trying to summon on this kind of banner. But if you had to, then Lara Shell is by far the most unique unit, which I think is going to be a pretty annoying unit to face most of the time. Duo Eirika, we're going to be facing that in Arena, but not as annoying because they cannot really activate the duo skill in the hands of AI. Tana with her movement shenanigans is also going to be something that might spook many people, and you have to keep in mind the Canto AI is actually smart, it's not dumb. So after the Canto, they basically retreat. They do not really go ahead aggressively, so that's something to keep in mind, I guess, while using these units in the hands of AI, auto-battling or like Ether Reach defense or anything like that. So overall, if you're a fan of Sacred Stones and any of these units, then yeah, pull for them. Always try to go for your favorites. That's where you're going to be having most of your fun for most people, definitely. But if not, then definitely try to wait, because Golden Week is right around the corner. So we might see some kind of new banner with tickets and stuff, so that might be worth checking out and worth waiting if these are not like your top favorite units. The fact that we cannot spark on this kind of seasonal banner or any seasonal banner is going to be a huge like gamble for most free-to-play players, because you don't know how many hundreds of orbs it's going to take you to pull that 5-star unit that you really want, because there's no spark. So let me know in the comments what is your opinion on these units on this banner, and I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Lyon's weapon against colorless melee units. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.